Hey guys, so I just finished watching the 2015 film Extinction and I want to share my thoughts. So let's roll that intro and get straight into the video. Extinction 2015 is a not very well known film. It does star Matthew Fox and Jeffrey Donovan. I know Matthew Fox from Lost, and he was obviously the main character of that. Jeffrey Donovan looks familiar, but I can't recall anything that I've seen him in, although he is probably the main character in this film. The actress who plays the little girl in this film is really good and really convincing as a young actress. There's lots of very small and subtle facial expressions and glances that are really good. The only thing that I would say let her down was probably the script. As a generic young kid in an apocalypse or some type of environment, she kept doing things and making decisions that I feel like a kid wouldn't do, like very stupid decisions, and that kind of made her character a little bit annoying now and then. All three characters give a really good performance, and it's a film with quite a small cast. Something that's definitely worth mentioning is the setting for this film is very interesting. It's almost like this winter ice age apocalypse, which I don't see very often in films, and it makes it feel quite bleak and like there's not much hope. The only thing that reminded me of very slightly on occasion was a film called The Road, where that film also feels very lacking of hope and this sense of everything's doomed. Now, The Road definitely did it a lot better, but there are a few glimpses of that in this film. Something else as well is some of the sets, like some of the buildings that are frozen inside, look absolutely amazing, and there's some really cool cinematography where it shows a camera going through a wall or up and down certain floors of houses very seamlessly, and it creates this really cool effect and immersion, and I really like that about the film. One thing that stands out to me the most from this film is the effects of these monsters. It seems to be practical, that you have clearly some type of person wearing makeup or different prosthetics to make themselves look like these creatures, and it's really effective. So let's get into the plot. The film starts off and shows you very quickly how this zombie apocalypse happened, and this film is slightly different in the twist with zombies, where it shows these zombies have evolved into something else. And these creatures are very much like the Wendigo from the Until Dawn game, and I really like those creatures, and they seem really cool and creepy, and I like what they did with them in this film. The film has a lot of drama in it and a lot of unanswered questions that keep you interested. I'd say the prologue to the film that explains the zombie apocalypse was effective, and it had a lot of very claustrophobic and intense scenes, but it didn't last very long. The pacing of the film then slows down for quite a while you're building up a lot of these characters and who they are, and I like a lot of these scenes and showing this father character looking after somebody and establishing that there's some type of unsaid tension between certain characters, and that is really interesting. But because the pacing seems a lot slower, I would almost define this film as a bit of a slow burn. Now, that's not necessarily negative. It just means that if you're going to watch this film, prepare yourself to have a lot of slower moments in the film. But again, that's not necessarily a negative thing. Some negatives that I want to mention is that some of the camera work in the film is a little bit distracting. There's some shaky cam here and there that doesn't seem too great. There's also some moments where it's very clearly CGI. It's weird because the practical effects are almost perfect and they are really, really good, but then when it suddenly switches to something that looks like it maybe could have quite easily been done with practical effects, but it switches to CGI, it becomes almost quite distracting. Now, I feel that the film does somewhat a good job of trying to hide it behind like the mist of this snow and different things, but it's still somewhat obvious. Going back to the film being a slow burn, there's a few scenes here and there where you get a little bit of action. I wouldn't really generally class this as a horror film, even though judging by the front cover and the artwork and the theme, you would almost define it as that. I think it's very much based more on the drama between these three characters and this event that's gone on, which has caused tension between them. And seeing that all play out is really interesting, and there's a lot of heartfelt moments where you start to unravel and understand why these characters are feeling this way, and seeing them try and rekindle some type of friendship or relationship. And those things are actually really good, and those heartfelt moments did get to me on occasion. Some of the fight scenes and different actiony moments were good but not great. And there's this scene at the very end of the film where there's this big, I want to say a big showdown almost, and it goes a certain way and you think it's almost coming to a close. And if it had ended there, I would think, oh, that was almost a little bit underwhelming. But then something else happens and it suddenly becomes a lot bigger and better, and I was quite impressed by that. The ending of the film felt like there was a little bit more to be had. I desired a little bit more kind of answers to certain questions and certain plot points that weren't wrapped up nicely. The action scene that happened just before the ending was good and that was satisfying. But then when the film suddenly and almost quite quickly comes to a close with this almost unanswered question and almost leaving it a bit ambiguous, it feels a little bit disappointing. I think overall the film left me feeling and wishing that there was a little bit more horror, a little bit more action. Although I appreciated a lot the different dramatic and character development parts of the film, I felt some of those went on a little bit longer, where you could have focused a little bit more on the horror aspect and some of these very intense scenes, and almost done more of a job to make it more intense. And I feel that would have benefited the film a lot. I would rate the film a 5 out of 10. That for me is very average. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't necessarily bad. I am glad I watched it. I would still definitely check it out. I do like how unique the zombie creatures are in this film, and there's lots of different unique aspects to them that are quite refreshing in the zombie genre. So definitely check this out and see what you guys think of it. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.